A number of people have asked us how Symmetry works in the software, so I wanted to go through that really quickly. So let's import the model typically used for testing. So this is a model exported from 3D code as a voxel form or voxel representation with 100,000 triangles. So now let's turn on the wireframe so we can see what the underlying model looks like. So the wireframe shows us the triangulation of the model or the topology of the model. This topology is pretty hideous and doesn't have any symmetry. I typically do not retopologize my models. My workflow is generally Nomad Sculpt to 3D Coat to printing or making molds or whatever other thing I'm doing. So I don't want to have to add topology to my workflow because it's kind of artificial for the work that I'm doing. I don't really care about the topology of the model, and I don't really want to have to care about it. Although some people will use a topologized workflow because they find it allows them to do a lot of other things. I have a couple of friends who do this. So um, it's just a point of consideration. I didn't want this software to depend upon the topology to be able to pattern things. So let's add a snapline real quick. A snapline, instead of the traditional way of doing symmetry where the tool is mirrored across some number of symmetry axes, I wanted to instead be able to add lines that you could snap to. So you can use them for different things rather than being something where you're kind of stuck with a symmetry tool that doesn't necessarily help you from a snapping perspective. So right now, for version 1 of the software, you'll be able to add snap lines just on the center of the model for XYZ. Eventually, we'll get to being able to add arbitrary snap lines. So we've added a snap line here, and I can add, let's add another one here. So the snap lines now enable us to snap our seams to this, and this will allow us to create symmetrical patterns. When we're using the seam drawing tool, there are different snapping options. So you can snap to seam vertices, snap back to snap the seams themselves. You can snap to the underlying topology. This is disabled by default because for most cases it doesn't make a lot of sense, but sometimes you may want to be able to use it. And lastly, snap to snap lines. So when we're drawing a seam, when we mouse over something that we could snap to, you'll get an indicator down here telling you what it's snapping to. And the cursor will change color as well. So you'll see it changes to color, a different color, depending upon what's being snapped to. So let's create a symmetrical pattern. So now I've drawn this here, I can go ahead and mirror about the other side. And now I have a symmetrical pattern. If I wanted to, I could go ahead and modify one side of this. If I want to draw additional seam lines, I can snap to vertices and start drawing a line. And then maybe I want to snap to a seam to end that line. Alternatively, in this model, you wouldn't really want to do this, but you could start snapping on the underlying topology here. So this tool or this snap mode allows you to snap to the topology of snap to the vertices, the topology vertices, so that you can utilize them if you wanted to. So if you had some feature in your underlying topology that you felt was critical to drawing a pattern, you could do that. The other part of this, I'm not going to show this right now because it's not working particularly well, is once you cut this pattern in the layout view, you're able to then flip the pattern so that if you only patterned half of the model in the 3-dimensional space, you could still produce your 2-dimensional patterns symmetrically. There's quite a few bugs with that still, so we're still working through that. The software it's been a pretty big challenge to get here, but hopefully this answers some questions about the way snapping works in the software and symmetry works.